we know that the predominant kind of filmmaker that Hollywood supports is the white male filmmaker. That is not hyperbole, that is hard fact. I'm eager to amplify ideas around not just voting, but the ways in which we can really rebuild and reimagine a lot of the power structures that we find ourselves in. If you thought that just the social media post was enough, you were wrong. I'm going to be knocking on some doors and making some phone calls. She taught me a lot of things. You sit down with her and like gems are dropping, you're trying to pick them up like diamonds, make a necklace or some jewelry out of it. A project called LEAP, the Law Enforcement Accountability Project. And this really looks at a new way of analyzing systems. And the question is, what do you believe? What is the truth?
Welcome to the show. You know I'm so excited to see you, and welcome.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. So it feels like COVID has been a crazy time for everyone, but I think a number of folks were telling me that you've been incredibly productive, that lots of good things have gotten done.
Yeah, well, I always try to stay productive, but this was in a different way. The productivity wasn't only focused on the projects that I was the leader of, but allowed me to support projects within our collective Array that amplifies the voices of others. And so we've always done that through Array Releasing with some of our filmmakers like Isabel Sandoval and Marari Garima and others, to really focus on some of the producerial work as opposed to the directorial work. Has been really nice, producing for other people, getting some other aspects of our social justice arm up on its feet. Every day's been busy, and I just feel good about the work that we've been doing, to counter what I see on television and reading the papers. I see that stuff, I get upset, and now I have the time to do something about it.
Ava DuVernay is the highest grossing Black woman director in American box office history. Her film distribution company, Array, was named one of Fast Company's most innovative companies. Array amplifies the work of people of color and women of all backgrounds. Are you finding yourself hopeful, anxious, a combination of all the above, given, as you said, everything that is happening in Trump's 2020?
Yeah, I think a combination of hopeful and anxious would be eager. I'm eager to, amplify ideas around not just voting, but the ways in which we can really rebuild and reimagine a lot of the power structures that we find ourselves in, a lot of the systems that are unjust and imbalanced. And so I'm eager, I'm ready to do that. I'm preparing myself to do that. I am doing it in some spaces. And just really feel like that anxious plus hopeful, it's a bit of a combination of both.
Now, obviously, you did a lot of that and have been doing a lot of that with criminal justice reform, but I like hearing you say that you're looking at other places where you might be a part of reimagining. What are some of those other places that you'd love to be a part of resetting?
Well, one of the things that we're working on really specifically is a project called LEAP that we announced in July, the Law Enforcement Accountability Project. And this really looks at a new way of analyzing systems. And this system that we're analyzing is not just the policing itself, but the way that citizens interpret policing.
Since a little girl growing up in Compton, a heavy police presence there. Not feeling safety when I would see police, feeling fear, feeling like they were coming after me or coming after the people in my neighborhood.
So you growing up, police represented danger, fear.
Danger, yeah. Which is an interesting way to grow up.
Yeah.
Many people think safety, they think relief, they think the good guy.
He's my friend.
He's my friend.
In danger, this is where I'm going to go to.
Never felt that.
Never felt that.
Never felt that.
The narratives and myths that we have bought into as it relates to policing, the idea that we don't have to know who the offending officer is. We don't have to know where he goes. We don't have to even know his name. Leave that to us, and you all mourn the victim. This idea says, no, we get to know it all. We pay you. You work for us. And so if something has gone wrong, if there's been abuse, if there's been murder, that we need to start to retrain ourselves into what we can ask and what we can know. So LEAP uses art to do just that, to create new narratives around these police interactions. And we really focus on telling the side of the story that is usually hidden from us, which is what happened to the officer. Where did he go? Where did she go? Why did that happen? Were they prosecuted? Why weren't they prosecuted?
Breonna Taylor's mother says that her fight for justice is not over.
The system as a whole has failed her.
What do you see when you see the Breonna Taylor case? And I realize that's a big question, but I also know that you care a lot about it. What do you see when you look at it?
I see the power of the people to keep this case in the spotlight, to keep it in the news, to keep it at the forefront of conversations, to make sure that her name is widely known, that it's integrated into the platforms and the punditry and all that we're hearing now from politicians who want our vote. And it's going to be the power of the people that elongates that conversation, that keeps it at front and center, so that it can really be used not only in justice for her particular case, but in an overall overhaul of the ways in which we accept police narratives. I mean, one of the big things about that case is there's so much working with it, but a big part of it is the narrative, the story. When you look at the original police report, it said that nothing happened. The original police report, which is widely available, literally the whole thing's blank. It has her name and it's just signed by an officer. It doesn't have anything in between. And that would have just gotten filed, like thousands of others over the decades have just been filed, with no narrative that was defined by anyone else or anybody else than the officer. And that's just not enough. We can't trust that. And so it was the people who continued to ask questions. It was the people that stood with the family. It was the people that demanded that more information come out. It was the people that wanted to hear from witnesses. It was the people who are now even at a point where a grand jury member is coming out saying, wait, there's another part of the story.
Basically, in a nutshell, they said there were other possible charges that we considered, but nothing that we could make stick.
So justice and storytelling really goes hand in hand, because so much of what we're hearing are stories that we're told, and the question is, what do you believe? What is the truth? And so there needs to be more points of view to get to that.
Be fearless! We can do it! I believe in you! We can do it faster!
Our home is the training ground for her dreams policy. Insure carefully. Dream fearlessly.
When we were talking about white privilege earlier, I want all the Karens to unite. I know a lot of white women are feeling some kind of way about being called a Karen, but call your manager about justice, right? Call somebody up about the things that you want done. Take that on for yourself and stand in between what we want and the problem.
Would you tell me a little bit, if you would, about white allyship and what you're seeing in Hollywood now, kind of in light of all the conversations we're having around race? Has anything changed meaningfully? Are you substantially hopeful? Are you not? Like what is actually happening as someone who probably is in more quality conversations than many other people of color that we know?
Yeah, I think it still remains to be seen what people actually do that is connected to what they said. You had a lot of people saying a lot of things over the summer. And I believe in giving people time so we can really see, well, what do you do about it? And so it hasn't been even 6 months. And so I'm going to be humane and patient. But after that, I'm going to be knocking on some doors and making some phone calls. If you said it, then you got to be about it, right? And if you said it and you're not about it, then it needs to be said that you're not. And so I think that is particularly true for the studios, particularly true for networks, particularly true for all of these brands. What did you do about that thing? If you thought that just the social media post was enough, you were wrong.
How did you become interested in doing storytelling as a full-time job, as a full-time role? Was either your mother or other people in your family involved in storytelling such that inspired you, or how did you come to becoming a storyteller?
No one in my family, did it professionally or was, formally into it. I think Black folk and, people of color have all kinds of, cultural traditions that are oral, that are about that sharing. That's how we've survived in this country, with everything stripped from us. It's a sharing, it's an oral passing, it's a verbal. So that was certainly a part of it. My Aunt Denise loved movies. And so growing up, she would take me to the movies with her and really fell in love with it right alongside her, and saw it as a powerful tool as I grew older and started to study Black liberation and American history and world history. Really saw how story can be used to subjugate and oppress, can also be used to get free. And so that's why I work within that space.
Ava, one of the things we love talking about on this show is how people go about dreaming fearlessly. What advice do you have for people who are doing that, but are maybe hitting roadblocks, starting to lose a little bit of motivation? What's the best advice you could offer them?
You have to love to learn, and you love to learn. You're getting better. You see yourself improving. You see yourself developing your own style or your own way or your own thinking about whatever the thing is you want to do. So I really reveled in each step. And I just invite people to just think of it as I'm going to go on an adventure. I'm going to go on a journey, and I'm going to, really hold on to each step until I can take the next one and enjoy each one.
Ava, I really love that. That's super helpful. As you've taken steps and moved forward in your career, how has dreaming fearlessly changed for you? Maybe either in meaning or in execution?
The idea that I'm making work across all platforms. Television series, television films, theatrical films, documentaries, podcasts, branded commercial content, like all of the ways that you can tell story. Because 10 years ago, filmmakers were very kind of stuck in categories. And it's such a wonderful thing that we get to make films and TV at a time now where you can cross between the two and everybody's doing everything.
You now clearly have crossed over from someone who's been on the journey to someone who's helping other people launch their journeys, whether you do that with Array or with other things as well. What would have surprised you the most if I'd gone back and told you back in the day when you were doing, as you said, weekend films and you were doing films on the side? What would have surprised you most about what your life is like today and what you've been able to experience if you could go back and tell her?
I think I'm the most surprised that I'm a distributor of other people's films. I didn't even know how to make my own film, let alone being an advocate for and a mentor for and a champion for other people's films as a distributor. I was a publicist, so I knew how to cheer people on, but to actually, really help in the production and the distribution and the exhibition of films, I think I would find that that would probably tickle me if I told myself that 10 years ago. We've been releasing films now for 9 years, and we do small but very kind of handmade campaigns that just got a whole bunch of Black women's love in it. All the women who work on these projects, and some not Black women, all kinds of women who work on these projects under Array are really passionate about these images and the idea that we should be able to see stories by different kinds of filmmakers. And we know that the predominant kind of filmmaker that Hollywood supports is the white male filmmaker. That is not hyperbole, as hard fact. And so if we as Array say we're interested in seeing all kinds of stories by all kinds of people, then we go out and we look for the ones of those that move us the most.
I feel like in a lot of beautiful and important ways, you are taking a baton from Oprah and even advancing that, meaning not just your work together, but I feel like part of what she did that was magical is create opportunities for other people as well, which clearly you're doing with Array. What are some of the things you've learned from working with Oprah Winfrey, including obviously on Queen Sugar?
Rolling. Action.
Stand by the roll camera.
Yeah, well, I'm really happy Queen Sugar is back. We're on our third day after quarantine shutdown of our 5th episode. So that was a Herculean effort. I'm really proud of the whole team there. I think the thing that she's taught me, she's taught me a lot of things. You sit down with her and like gems are dropping, you're trying to pick them up like diamonds, make a necklace or some jewelry out of it. But I think overall, beyond just a one-liner here or there, many of which I hold to be my mantras, the main thing is just her way of working with so much integrity. The way that she works is aligned with who she is as a person. She's going to put ahead of profit or ahead of it being easier. She's going to put the question to herself, why am I doing this? What's the intention behind us doing this? It's always really tethered to who she is as a person. And so I found that my business practice turned around in a lot of ways personally more enjoyable, but also became wildly successful when every single thing I did came from a positive intention.
What have you learned about love? What can you teach us? Our audience, we talk about love a lot on this show. What have you learned about love?
You know what I've learned is it doesn't work if you're not happy with yourself. It just doesn't quite work. Whether it's familiar relationship, family relationship, or friendship, if you, can't really wrap your mind around your part of it, which is you, and you don't love yourself, then you're bringing a hollowness to the relationship.
I want to move a little bit to rapid fire, if you don't mind. And I'd love to hit you with a couple of things and hear some of your immediate reactions.
Okay, I'll try my best.
Biggest mistake you've ever made?
Allowing a man named Paul Webb to take credit for writing Selma when I wrote it.
A book you would recommend?
Cast by Isabel Wilkerson. Have you read it?
I have not yet, but I'm on my way. I like her, love her even, but I have not started the journey yet. I haven't read the book.
About it. You've heard about it.
Of course. What's your favorite place that you've ever visited? Country, city? Where has brought you great joy?
Ooh, gosh, that's hard. I've had some beautiful adventures. I'd have to say Mali.
Oh.
So a small country in Africa, where my brother-in-law's family is from. And I was able to go to Mali, and I love it when you go places, and yes, I like to do a great hotel and a great spa, but more than that, I love to be in people's homes in other countries. And so I was able to stay with my family there and have real Malian food and go to the real Malian mall and get on the real Malian bus, which is just a van.
Ava, I hope this won't be the last time. I hope you will bring your wonderful smile and your very special self back to the show again.
Thank you. Thanks for being such a great interview. I look forward to talking to you again.
Advancing Black Pathways is a program we launched to truly make targeted impact across education, careers, and wealth creation. We are helping Black people succeed in whatever they wish to accomplish.
Sekou, Kaalund, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Talk to me about the name. Where does your name come from?
Okay, so Sekou, many people probably don't know this. I'm from North Carolina. So it's the third most common Southern name. You got Billy Bob, Jimmy Lee, and Sekou. No, okay, maybe not. So Sekou is West African. So Sekou Touré was the first president of the independent Guinea. So our parents gave us all names with meaning. So it means warrior, and my middle name means wisdom. So I'm a wise warrior. I use wisdom to fight for the things I want.
How did you get into finance? I mean, was anyone in the family in finance, or are you really the first member of the family to kind of explore this world?
I'm disappointed you haven't heard about the famous Kaalund dynasty of bankers dating back to the 1500s. Man, did you not do your research? No one was in banking at all. And so for me, it was a pivot in graduate school. where I won this business commentary competition sponsored by the Executive Leadership Council. And that's really the most senior African Americans in corporations. And that experience really provided me some insight and counsel on how I can move into financial services and really achieve some of the goals that I had set forth, in terms of making impact.
What is Advancing Black Pathways, and why should they care?
So Advancing Black Pathways is an initiative we launched at JPMorgan Chase to focus on strengthening the economic foundation of the Black community. And we're doing that by harnessing our philanthropic and business resources to accelerate growth across 3 areas: education, careers, and wealth creation. And these 3 areas are intertwined, and that's why we're focused on them, but really driving results, hiring 4,000 Black students at JPMorgan over 5 years, providing capital, content, and resources for business, providing financial health and insights for Black families, individual students. So it's really anchored on how you could begin to close the racial wealth gap. And why it's great for everybody. The more we have inclusive growth in this country, it means we have more vibrant communities, stronger businesses, and we create more businesses, which means more jobs, a stronger tax base. And so really our destinies are interconnected. And so the more we create these inclusive growth opportunities, we will really thrive more as a nation.
Well, what are you most proud of? I mean, you and I both know that starting something new is never easy. So now as you look back a couple years in, what are you most proud of?
And so I'm proud to see whether it's our hardship fund that we launched that helps students, college students even get home from COVID and stay in school, whether it was the fact that we made 40% progress on our goal to hire 4,000 Black students, so well ahead of schedule, whether it was that we created financial health for colleges like Howard University as part of freshman orientation, and ultimately what we've done around the Black community in terms of financial health and really creating this dialogue and touching over 500,000 people to really be anchored and centered on the importance of financial health, especially in these times.
For those who aren't close to Black businesses, are there distinctive challenges that you see that they are facing? And number one, and number two, are there really interesting insights that you would offer up to Black entrepreneurs who are trying to make their way forward?
Black businesses do face the challenges, whether it's access to capital. We did some research through our Chase Institute and found out that Black and brown businesses actually only had 2 to 3 weeks of cash on hand versus white businesses having months. So if you think about like COVID and the pandemic, why then you have a headset as to why we've lost nearly 500,000 Black businesses. I would encourage Black business owners to know that there are resources available. Say, understand like even capital, right? Beyond just loans, like understand the use of capital. When do you need a line of credit card, equity, debt? And so I think the more people take advantage of resources, then it enables these Black businesses to not only, what I hope, survive, revive, and ultimately thrive after COVID.
What else would you like people to know about this question of strengthening the economic foundation of the Black community?
It's what has happened, structurally, whether it was government policy, actual law, lending, housing policy. There have been a multitude of factors that have created or really precluded, large groups of people from partaking in the economic opportunities in a full way in this country. And so what we're trying to do is, again, not make a pie smaller, but really strengthen our economy and strengthen our communities by providing more opportunities. Because I like to say this, that it's talent that is created equally, but opportunity is not. So if we could get more talent the opportunity to pursue their dreams, it will strengthen our communities and really create, in my mind, this inclusive growth for everyone.
Well, as one Black entrepreneur and business owner, I have to say I appreciate what you're saying. I relate to a lot of it. Sekou, thank you again for joining me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for even giving me this opportunity and platform to talk about how we can do more together as a country, and as a people.
I hope you really enjoyed that. I hope you really did. I think Ava is such a big, important, and special person. I loved her openness to not sharing a silver bullet for how she has grown and progressed in her career, but being honest and saying that it happened one step at a time. Maybe what I liked even more is that she talked about enjoying the journey. I think so many of us don't. And think about how that ties into what she had to say about love, that it starts with loving yourself. Maybe all of us at one point or another need to hear that, and I appreciated her sharing that, and so much more in between. What she said about Selma, her openness there, could end up being a game changer. Could end up touching off a much larger conversation about credit, about fairness. Important. Appreciated her doing that. And in many ways, what a perfect day to also have Sekou Kaalund on. I really appreciate the work he's doing. It's important work. I'm sure it's difficult work as well. I hope you enjoyed the show. If you did, think about subscribing, think about telling a friend, and consider listening to the whole podcast. There's a lot more there. I'll see you soon. Hey, tune into the Carlos Watson Show. It's like no other. You're going to enjoy it every weekday on YouTube.